And afterwards, the writers of the Eagle Project will engage in a talkback with the Marymount community that I will moderate. Bill, one of our panelists, was not able to join us. He is experiencing health issues, so we're sending all of our love and healing energy to him. And so this has been an extremely challenging and difficult year, but with those challenges, I also feel it's been an incredibly inspirational year with the societal movements that have happened in the US and a surge in the civil rights movement. And so as I'm thinking about all of the historical oppression that has come up to the surface in 2020, so I believe that before we can actually have historical healing to trauma and genocide, we have to have acknowledgement. And so I want to transition into our Marymount land acknowledgement. The first portion that you will hear is that text that was devised specifically by Marymount. And then the second portion of the text was created by Ryan Opalanietet and the Rattlestick Playwrights Theater, The Land We Stand On. And the land acknowledgement will be read by our wonderful Marymount performers in the theater department, and we'll get to hear a little bit more about them at the beginning of our excerpt readings, where they will introduce themselves. So I will ask at this moment that if you are not reading the land acknowledgement, if you could take off your camera so that we can let the students lead us in this.
We gather at Marymount Manhattan College, whose 71st Street campus rests on the traditional land of the Lenape peoples past and present, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the people who have stewarded it throughout the generations. This calls us to commit to continuing to learn how to be better stewards of the land we inhabit as well. The name Manhattan derives from the Lenape word for island, Menete. Each time we say the name Marymount Manhattan College, remember that we are evoking the memory of the Lenape people.
Although presently we are not all together on the MMC campus, may we take a moment to also acknowledge our digital gathering. We are using equipment and high-speed internet not available in many Indigenous communities. The technologies that are central to our learning and much of our art leaves significant carbon footprints, which contribute to the changing climates that disproportionately affect Indigenous peoples worldwide. Might we recognize this as an opportunity for a communal responsibility to make good of this shared time, coupled with consideration of our roles in reconciliation, decolonization, and allyship.
The island of Mannahatta is a part of Lenape-Hoking and has been for thousands of years. The Lenape grew crops, hunted, fished, traded with neighboring tribal nations, and formed some of the longest continuing democracies on the face of the earth. The first European to visit Mannahatta was Verrazano in the 1500s. He tried to enslave the Lenape, but the Lenape successfully pushed him out. By the early 1600s, the Lenape were saving the new Dutch settlers from starvation and were actively trading furs and other items with them. Once the newly introduced capitalistic fur trade depleted the local beaver population, however, relations soured and violent genocide against the Lenape began.
1624, as the Dutch settled in what is now Lower Manhattan, the Lenape people of Mannahatta began to lose their homeland. It's been said that in 1626, the Lenape sold Mannahatta to Peter Minuit, director of the Dutch settlement, for 60 guilders, about $24 at the time, worth of trade goods. However, the Lenape didn't see the transaction as the official handing over of one thing for another. As they understood it, the land was belonging to the creator, and all of us were merely stewards to take care of it. Minuit, however, saw the transaction as a sale and assumed the Dutch had become the owners. The Dutch called their new settlement at the southern tip of Mannahatta, New Amsterdam.
Europeans purposefully exacerbated frictions between the Lenape and other tribal nations in an effort to divide and conquer the local indigenous populations and steal more of the land for themselves. Many Lenape died from diseases brought by the Europeans because their bodies hadn't developed any immunity or resistance to them. New Amsterdam was taken over by the English in the 1660s, at which time the name was changed to New York. By the early 1700s, many of the Lenape who survived the effects of the European arrival were forced to move from Mannahatta.
Despite all that, however, many Lenape nations continue to exist on Turtle Island, North America, to this day. They live in what is now Oklahoma, Wisconsin, Ontario, Delaware, New Jersey, and New York. There are 11 Lenape still living here on the island of Mannahatta. We pay respect to Lenape peoples, past, present, and future, and their continuing presence in the homeland and throughout the Lenape diaspora. This is still their land.
Acknowledging them reminds us of how a direct democracy is supposed to work, of how important women and elders are to our community, and how we are supposed to serve nature, not the other way around.
We recognize, honor, and respect these nations as the traditional stewards of the land and water on which we are now all present.
Let this land acknowledgement be an opening for all of us to contemplate a way to join in decolonial and Indigenous movements for sovereignty and self-determination.
Wonderful. Thank you so much to Michael, Wyatt, Grace, and Michelle. Thank you so much for reading this land acknowledgement and guiding us into this really sacred and beautiful work. I also put into the chat the bios of our panelists, our playwrights, and I know that was also included in the invitation that you received as well. So I just wanted to make sure that you had access to that. And so I want to invite Ryan, who's the director and founder of the Eagle Project, to talk a little bit more about the founding of the company, its history, and its mission.
Wanishi, Raquel, thank you so much. Well, Kwam Gabel Muhemo, that's greetings. I am Opalanietet, or you can also call me Ryan. Yes, I'm a member of the Nanacoke Lenni Lenape tribal nation, which is part of the larger Lenape nation that makes up Lenape Hoking. My particular nation lies in what is now southern New Jersey and Delaware, but of course Lenape Hoking, which refers to land of Lenape, goes from all the way up from around what is now the Catskill Mountains in New York State, all the way down to what is now Delaware and the eastern shore of Maryland. And it also includes eastern Pennsylvania, what is now Philadelphia, and the Poconos. So I want to thank Marymount Manhattan and Raquel for having the Eagle Project be a part of this, and I want to thank Vicki Lynn Mooney, who's a great friend and colleague and artist and historian, and even Bill, who cannot be with us today. I founded Eagle Project in 2012, and our mission is to explore the American identity through the performing arts and our Native American heritage. In essence, it's like, what exactly does it mean to be an American, and exploring that through the lens of the Native American experience, so that we, as we call ourselves Americans, can have a more accurate recollection of our past, a better understanding of our present, for a just and more inclusive vision for our future. And I think, I think the year 2020 has taught us many things about what being an American means, challenged some, brought in new things. I mean, I think one thing we realize is that it means different things to different people. Right. I mean, it's a place of hope and dreams for some people. It's a place of struggle and overcoming slavery and genocide for others. For others, it's a place of opportunity to have prosperity. For others, it can be a sense of entitlement and white supremacy. And I guess to a certain degree, there's elements of that there's elements of that due to everyone that has come here to Turtle Island. But we in the Eagle Project, we explore all that, but we start obviously with the Indigenous experience, since it was and still is Turtle Island. Ever since in our creation story, how the turtle was the first animal to come up from the ocean when the world was all wet, and despite anyone that has come to Turtle Island, whether they're either before or now or in the future, we are all stewards here to look after it, because this does belong to the Creator. It was here before we were here, and it'll be here when we're gone. And so it's up to us in our privileged position to look after and maintain nature as best as we can, and then she in turn will help maintain us. If that balance is not respected, then obviously the earth will reclaim it back. So anyway, so that's kind of an essence of Eagle Project. I don't know if more things will be in the chat as to our accomplishments and whatnot, but I wanted to use the time as to how I envisioned Eagle Project, and how I hope the artists that we've worked with also see us, and how we continue how we continue to work and operate. So I would just say in the brief summation of our of our work, I mean, we have done work, from more conventional theater in terms of collaborating with the public theater, and public theater and Lamami ETC, and the Norican Poets Cafe, to also doing work outside on Governor's Island, collaborating this year a lot with the American Indian Community House and First Nations Theater Guild, and to last year doing our first collaboration abroad, where we worked and developed a play with Ashtar Theater in Ramallah, Palestine. So that's just kind of I guess in a nutshell some of our highlights of the past few years.
Ryan, I did want to ask you about your reading series that you had, that I started seeing more from your company actually during COVID, and that you were teaching plays online every Thursday from different American writers throughout the country. So I would love for you to talk about the reading series, and if there's is there any recordings or access to any of those performances?
Yes, no, that's an excellent question. Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up. Yes, in the going back to those unpredictable days and of late March and early April, when it felt like, and especially here in New York City, like, what is happening? And how are we going to operate? How are we going to what does the future hold? And for those of us and in the Native community, because we unfortunately did lose a couple of our performers to COVID, and even myself who had the virus back in early April, you wondered, like, okay, well, how are we going to how are we going to do this? And we did have some work that was scheduled and slated to be workshopped this past spring, both in April and May. One of them was a play that I wrote called The Rabbit Play, and we were supposed to do that in collaboration with the University Settlement on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. And obviously that was canceled, because that literally the time that was scheduled was right in the thick of New York City's experience with COVID. Being a member of the American Indian Community House for the past almost 20 years, and they're currently under new leadership now. The executive director there, Yakawinahe, or Melissa Oakes, approached me and said, "Well, what do you think about doing the workshop of your play?" She was also working on the play with me as well at the time. She said, "Well, why don't we do a reading of it, a workshop of it online?" And at first I was a little skeptical, but I thought about it and I was like, well, yeah, why not? At this point, who knows when we're going to be back, and what's going to be like, and so I did get together some of the people that were supposed to work on the workshop with us at the University Settlement, and we worked with the American Indian Community House and First Nations Theater Guild to do an online workshop of the Rabbit play. And so we did that. That was on Thursday, April 30th of this year. And it seemed to go over so well that the Yakawinhe asked me, well, what do you think about doing more of these? And so, and that was also part of the Hatch series. At Eagle Project, we have what we call the Hatch series, which is a Hatch series of new work. And it's all about doing work in various phases of development. It is playwright driven. A lot of the productions that we've done have started there, including Vicki Lynn Mooney's Broken Heartland and Bill Yellow Robe's Woodbones, and my play Native May. They've all started with Hatch, and so Hatch combined with the Community House, we decided to do this thing called Native Theater Thursdays, where each Thursday we would present a new Native play. Or a play that may have been done, but it's been worked on in another phase of development, and presenting it online via Zoom. And we've done that most Thursdays since April 30th. We did take September and October off, but we did it throughout May, throughout June, throughout July, throughout August. And we also did one a couple weeks ago in November, and we are expected to have another one coming up. And so that's what we've done. It's the positive thing about it, I would say, is that it has enabled us to work with Native artists from across Turtle Island, both not only playwrights but also actors. So we have had Native actors from Alaska, from Minnesota, from Oklahoma, from California, from Arizona, from Massachusetts, from British Columbia and Canada and Alberta, Ontario. We've had we've had them from North Carolina. So just to name some of the ones I can recall off the top of my head. So that's been a real a wonderful pleasure, and also to have viewers, viewers in the thousands. Obviously, you generally wouldn't have thousands in a theater in New York just to see to see a workshop of a Native play. And here, because of the universality of it, we've been able to have thousands of viewers, and especially Native viewers from even more rural locations or reservations that may not be able to get to New York City or Los Angeles or Minneapolis or Chicago to see a Native play. So I think all that's been very fortunate.
It's fantastic as we are continuing to program online, how perhaps the Zoom space is an equitable space. Artists are not having to gather in a physical space or pay for expensive New York theater rentals. Is this online Zoom world an actual more liberatory and perhaps more equitable space during this time? It's been fascinating to hear from different communities and how we have maybe perhaps reframed our disadvantages into some advantages.
Yeah, exactly. And who knows? I mean, when I do hope that that on the other side of this pandemic, that we don't go back to 100% to the way it was before. Obviously, we want to get back to being in person and get a lot of our lives back that we don't have. But I do hope that we do take stock and see, well, what are some of the things that we did learn through this, and what can we do to make things more equitable going forward.
Beautiful. I just want to the for Ryan specifically project in the company, and then we'll transition to hearing our excerpts.
Hey, Raquel, I think your audio cut out a little bit there. Can you repeat that?
Sure. Sorry, today my audio has been problematic today. I just wanted to open it up. Thank you, Magdalene. My audio is breaking up. If anyone's had any questions specifically about the Eagle Project company, its development, we'll definitely have more opportunities after we hear the excerpts, but I just wanted to leave space if anyone also had any questions for Ryan at the moment, or any other contributions based on what you've heard. Feel free to put it into the chat, or feel free to unmute yourself as well. I hope that was heard. I've been doing, if I get any closer to my speaker. Beautiful. And if we don't have any questions, or says we're eager to hear the plays. Beautiful. So let's transition to Ryan's piece. This play is Native Made. And if you are not one of the performers, I will ask you to turn your camera off, and we will get into our first excerpt. And we are reading the very first pages of the play. But if, Ryan, if there's anything else that you'd like to offer us in terms of context, if not, we'll jump right in.
Sure, yeah. Just real quickly, this play is Native Made, which I first wrote a draft back in 2015, and it's been altered and workshopped and done over time. Basically, it is originally written as a one-person show, with the exception of the officer at the top, in which I do play all the characters. However, for this particular excerpt, I am delighted and honored to have some other actors from Marymount, Manhattan play play some of the other roles. There is a section where I do play other roles myself, but this is a wonderful blend of those two things.
This play is Native Made. Lights reveal a set with flags of the various states that exist in Lenape-Hoking, land of Lenape. They are New York, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Connecticut, with New Jersey right in the center. Music starts to blare out Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA. Lights then slowly focus on a man center stage. Music volume lowers to an underscore.
Kwam Gamel Mohemo. Greetings. I am Ryan Victor Little Eagle Pierce, member of the Nanacoke Lenni Lenape Tribal Nation and founder and artistic director of Eagle Project. I want to say Wanishi, thank you to all of you for coming to tonight's performance of Survivor. I also want to thank Marymount Manhattan for hosting us, for it's not often that a native written play gets a chance.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Are you the writer of the play?
Yes.
You're breaking the law.
What do you mean? And who are you?
I'm Officer Carlson, here on behalf of the Indian Arts and Crafts Board, the IACB. Under the Indian Arts and Crafts Act, you are not allowed to say this performance is Native Made. The Nanacoke Lenni Lenape have lost their state recognition. Turn on the lights. The show cannot go on as it is currently advertised.
Wait, hey, wait. Who do you think you are? This is a native written play and a native-led organization, and you have no right to say otherwise. We were granted our state recognition back in 1982.
No, that's right. But as I said, that has been rescinded. I tried contacting Marymount Manhattan ahead of time to alert them about this. I guess they didn't relay the message on to you.
How can you lose what you were granted?
Look, I'm just here enforcing the law.
Well, we are going to go on with the show.
I'm trying to help you, Mr. Pierce. If you don't abandon this theater, or at least change this show's title and how you identify yourself in half an hour, I'm going to have to slap you personally with a $5,000 fine. I imagine that being an artist, that's not an insignificant sum. So I'm trying to help you in that we can just chalk it up to you being ignorant of the facts.
Unbelievable. Well, folks, this was rather unexpected. Unfortunately, it looks like we will not be able to continue with this performance because I can't call myself native or this play Native Made.
Keep the title and go on with the show, son.
Whoa. What was that?
Keep the title and go on with the show, son.
Whoever is doing this, great job. You can come out now. I really did believe you for a second.
This is part of your problem. You don't believe in the power of your heritage.
I do believe in it. But I also have to live in the here and now.
Your heritage is now. Go on with the show.
How can I do that? I don't have a random $5,000 check lying around the house. I mean, do you have that from wherever you're talking to me from?
Don't talk back to your elders.
I'm not. I'm just giving you the facts as they currently stand. I can't afford that penalty fee. And how did you find me, by the way? You never came and spoke to me before.
You were never ready before.
Oh, but I'm ready now. And these audience members, who many I'm sure are not Lenape, they're ready too?
Everyone should hear this story.
That may be, but I feel we, at least for now, should change the title.
We've been changing our title for centuries. We're not doing it anymore.
Well, how did we lose our state recognition to begin with?
Better yet, rather than tell them about it, let's show them.
Crack of thunder, loud noise, and flashing lights. We are transported back in times hundreds of years ago.
What the... where are you? Where did you go? Hello? Hello? Okay. Can you guide me on this a little more? Hey, is there anyone out there that we can go halfway in with and splitting the penalty price if we keep the title for now? Where is this anyway? Where are we? There's no buildings, no cars, just lots of woods and underbrush. There are deer everywhere. I hear the sound of a river. Perhaps if I follow the sound of that river, it'll lead me or take us somewhere. Sounds like it's coming from... Oh, look! An eagle! You know, I have never seen an eagle in the wild before. Amazing. Let me see if I can follow it to the river. Wow, cool. Okay, let's keep going. You know, it's strange how parts of this landscape do look familiar. You know, the sandy soil, the pine woods, the marsh, and oh my God. Those look like wigwams. A Lenape house. Am I back in the 1600s? Oh, wait, someone's coming over. Call him, Gamel. I'm sorry. I don't speak fluent Lenape.
Oh, hi then. You don't speak fluent Lenape?
No, it was taken from me.
How does one take a language from someone?
Hundreds of years of occupation. You speak English?
Yes.
How did you get here?
I'm originally from England and came to the New World. During a skirmish, I was taken by the Lenape. They've made me a member of their tribe. I've never been happier and felt freer. For example, you won't see any social class here. You will likely see the chief and some other adorned with wampum and some other jewelry, but in terms of food, everybody is fed. No one is wanting in terms of necessities. I was offered an opportunity to return to the English colony, and I refused because women have a much higher status in the Lenape society than in European. Women control most of the possessions. When a man and a woman get married, he goes to her house.
Well, I guess you could say we're not quite that liberated yet in the 21st century. What are typically the duties of a Lenape husband?
To defend the community, hunt, dig out canoes, and any kind of construction, and clear the land so we can farm.
Farm?
Yes. Our job is to plant, harvest, and cook, as well as sometimes collect medicine. Despite our duties, however, besides for the creator and mother of Earth, there aren't any pronouns attached to gender. No, his or her. Gender, as you know them, are non-existent. They are totally equal, but let's get going. There's been a meeting called for all the members of the tribe tonight, along with a special dinner served.
Oh my God, this is incredible. Deer and turkey, bear, shellfish, corn, beans, and squash. Well, this is better than Thanksgiving.
What's that?
Never mind. You don't want to know. Do they normally eat like this?
You are a special guest.
Oh, I'm not really a guest. I'm actually one of you from the 21st century.
How'd you get here?
I honestly have no clue. But do they treat all guests in this manner?
You did seem lost. It is our duty to help all those in need.
Wow, that's some serious obligatory hospitality.
What are you waiting for? All the elders have taken their food.
Well, I mean, the chief hasn't.
The chief eats last. He waits until every other member of the tribe is fed before he takes his food. That is certainly different than the 21st century America. The chief eats last? Chief eating last. The surrounding Lenape tribes, including our own, have agreed to each vote on who they wish to be our spokesman in the talks with the Quakers. Who is their spokesman? The leader for the Quakers, they call him William Penn. They're looking to build a settlement on the Lenape-Wetak. Oh, up the river. Yeah, well, we should look for a spokesman closer to that area than we are. Well, some of the tribes up the river like the idea of Tamanend being our spokesman. Oh, he's a great orator. He's very diplomatic. He's very smart. I dealt with him myself years ago. And I could go for him. I as well. All those in favor of Tamanend being our spokesman, raise their hands. Now, what I find so heartwarming is that everyone is participating. One person, one vote, direct democracy. And everyone is pulling their weight in their civic responsibility. Excellent. I will take our choice of Tamanend to our regional conference. Now that that is out of the way, do we have everyone and everything we need for tomorrow's hunt? My family is ready, as is mine. Chief, as you know, my son was lost recently, so I am missing one person for tomorrow's hunt. Of course. Take this new Lenape that came to us earlier today. He dresses very odd. A son, would you be prepared to hunt with the men tomorrow? What is he saying? He's asking if we would be prepared to hunt with the men tomorrow.
Oh, what,
It is a Lenape man's duty.
Sure. What did he say? He's Lenape, but he speaks this English and not Lenape.
He says he's happy to go.
Fantastic. Continue showing him the ways of how we do things. He seems to have forgotten.
Will do. You can stay with me tonight. They won't mind. And it is customary for a Lenape man. As a matter of fact, it's also his duty to go to any lengths to keep their woman happy.
Well, I mean, you put it that way. I guess it's time that I start trying to fulfill my traditional Lenape duties.
I think so.
Now, the next day, they took me with them to the hunt. Hey! Look at this buck I got! Oh, wow, that's fantastic! Have you gotten anything yet? No, my new friend has not gotten anything yet. Well, I mean, He does know how to use a bow and arrow, right? Oh, yeah. We showed him. Well, he'll get something. Don't worry. Oh, there's more deer over that way. See you later. I feel like I'm letting everyone down. I see one. Okay. Okay, here it goes. Ha! God. It's not even close. Woo, clearly I need a lot more practice. I got a doe. Oh, that's amazing. And you're still so young. Well, I shot my first arrow when I was 4. Yes, you did. I remember. Oh, there's another one over there. Damn. Sorry. Whatever. Look, I've never done this before. I mean, this is embarrassing. I mean, I feel like I'm letting the tribe and that elder down. Wait, there's something moving in the brush over there. What is that? I think it's a deer. I'm gonna get my kill and make my contribution to the hunt. Ha! Ha! I got it! I shot my bow and I got it! Oh, wait. Oh, okay, it's not dead yet. I'll shoot it again. Ah! Holy yikes! My God, it's a bear! And it's not dead. It's just mad and coming right for me. I gotta get out of here. Why is everybody looking at me? It's a mad bear coming straight at me. Okay. Everybody's looking at me like I'm the crazy one. Okay, don't be a wimp. Let's shoot it. Quick! Okay, shoot it again! Again! Oh my God. I did it. Amazing. I killed a bear. Oh, I knew he'd do it. All right, guys. Let's get this bear back to the village for chow time, huh? And we prayed to Misingwa, the spirit of forests and hunters, holding a ceremony to mourn the loss of the animal. We pray to the Creator, our Father, and the earth, our mother. Every bit of the animal is used for something. Nothing is wasted.
And end of excerpt.
Well, Wanishi, thank you.
I just want to also thank our performers for our next excerpt.
Yes, thank you to all the actors reading with me. I really appreciate that.
Beautiful. So we'll be able to to debrief about your play and the excerpts after our readings. So we're going to transition to Vicki's piece, Open Plan. And if the actors could just introduce themselves and the roles that they will be playing, that would be phenomenal.
My name is Michael Urian. I'm a junior year acting BFA at Marymount Manhattan College. I also have a concentration in playwriting. I will be reading for Shepherd in this excerpt.
My name is Michelle. I am a freshman at Marymount, and my major is CTEM with a minor in theater, and I will be playing the role of Alma.
Hi, my name is Grace Fluharty. I am a musical theater major, sophomore, and I will be playing Florence, Alma's mother.
Hi, my name is Wyatt. I am a freshman in the BFA in acting program, and I will be reading for Josiah.
Beautiful. And so I just wanted to invite Vicki to give a little bit of context to the excerpt that we're about to hear. It is from a full-length play, So Vicki, if you'd like to just give us a little bit of a synopsis and what happens before the pages that we're about to read.
Okay, can you hear me all right?
Oh, yes, we can hear you.
Okay, because I can't see myself. I guess I'm on. Broken Heartland is the first play I wrote from the Broken Heartland series. What it
Okay.
it won't
All right.
start because she has to start it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. When I say the series, I mean my trilogy. And each play in the Broken Heartland trilogy is inspired by one piece of family history. My Cherokee great-grandmother recounting the story of her wedding night in Broken Heartland, my great-great-grandfather's testimony before the Dawes Commission in Hoop Jumper, and in Blood Boundary, a U.S. Supreme Court decision that found a relative guilty of trying to cash in on her minor son land allotment to pay for legal expenses. I do not have a lot of family details, but I do have a passion for history. The family is fictional, but the history is real. Broken Heartland was inspired by Alma, my Cherokee great-grandmother. When we were children, she would put us to bed at night and entertain the whole feather bed full of girl cousins with the story of her wedding night. I created that scene for the play with the groom struggling to remove her high button boots while she stalls by pounding out every song she knows on the piano. Grandma always ended the story with a sigh and the statement, "And he turned out to be the love of my life." Later, years later, I discovered that the love of her life died alone and alcoholic in a cheap hotel room after decades of estrangement. The facts are that she was an innocent child pushed into marriage at age 12, a mere 2 months after her father died, and wed to a man more than twice her age. I did not fictionalize her story. Rather, I defictionalized it. I wanted to know about the Dawes rolls, and I wanted to write about the expectations that people, both white and Native, had at the time. I know who in my family received allotments and where the allotments were, but beyond the measurements, all I was able to find was something in the Oklahoma University's excellent pioneer papers in a quote from my great-great-grandmother's sister. She said, "At one time, we had it all. Then we lost it all. No sense talking about it now," which left me a lot of room for fiction. Senator Henry Dawes of Massachusetts was a firm believer in the civilizing power of private property. He once said that to be civilized, one must, quote, "wear civilized clothes, cultivate the ground, live in the houses, ride in Studebaker wagons, send children to school, drink whiskey, and own property." His faith in that premise was so strong that he sponsored federal legislation in the 1880s to civilize Indians by giving them individual allotments of land that he had just taken from them. The consequences were disastrous. His legislation broke up communally owned tribal land that had guaranteed every tribal member a home and almost destroyed Indian communities, tradition, and culture. It dispossessed Indian nations of almost 1 million acres of land that had sustained them since time immemorial. It also opened up Indian land for white European settlers eager to fulfill the mandates of manifest destiny, a 19th century belief rooted in the Christian doctrine of discovery that American citizens had a God-given right and obligation to possess all the land between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. And this little excerpt, this is where the truth comes out about Alma and Shep's marriage and a few other things that I hope you will find entertaining. So.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Vicki. And
You're very welcome.
we'll transition to our excerpt reading. And I hope that if you were able to take off your video, Vicki, now, if you'd like.
Yes, I will. Thanks.
Beautiful. Thank you. The Parlor, June 1904. Alma hums to herself as she waltzes around the parlor like the child she is, intermittently returning to the vase of flowers she's arranging for her expected company. She glows as only a girl in love can glow. A behavior that Shep can't help but notice. Shep enters from the porch.
Is something burning?
My cobbler!
What do they do?
A little of the juice boiled over in the oven. The cobbler isn't the least bit burned.
You sure love blackberries.
I do.
You've been picking blackberries most every day.
You gotta get them when they're ripe.
Excuse me for just 1 second. I lost the page. My apologies.
It's all good.
Here we are. You're getting brown like an Indian.
I am an Indian.
Oh, Christ, you're whiter than I am.
It's too hot to wear a bonnet, and I like to feel the sun on my skin.
Hello! Oh, I smell cooking. Hello, Shepherd.
Afternoon, Miss Whimsy.
Mama, come in. Shall I make a cup of tea for you?
I'd love some. How's the leg, son?
Better. I gave up the cane about 6 weeks ago, and it's wobbly, but it's holding.
Ah, progress.
The kettle's on. How's life been in your neck of the woods?
Ah, Grandpa keeps me busy. You wouldn't believe the mountains of wash that I do.
Have you seen Em?
Not for months. The last time I dropped in to visit, I did not feel entirely welcome. She doesn't seem to need me. Hardly even spoke. Do you see her?
I rode out there twice, but Chester ran me off. I never did get to see her. But that shack! Looks like he's got her living in a chicken coop.
Father is building a new house for Emma over by the Sand Springs.
Is he? I'm glad. Chester's little house isn't big enough to hold the two of them, much less a family.
She will be making me a grandmother soon, and you will be an aunt.
I made booties for the baby.
Oh, how sweet! Now, tell me, when you going to start knitting for your own baby?
All in good time.
Shepherd, you don't have a say?
So you'd notice. She takes after you in that respect.
Well, now that you're recovered from your hog bite and you're still not making babies, what do you do with your free time?
Aggravates me, most of it.
When she's here, she's out in the blackberry canes most every day.
Alma, you will ruin your complexion. You'll start looking like an old tan hide.
It's my natural color coming out.
Ridiculous. Your natural color is white.
You know how it looks when a man takes his shirt off and he'll be brown to his elbows and then there's a line where he's all white again?
Yes, he will be brown where the sun has hit him and pale as a fish belly beneath his clothing.
Alma doesn't have any of them lines. She's brown as cattail fuzz all over.
That can't be.
Blood will out, Mama. I'm getting more Cherokee every day.
How piffle.
I believe she is getting more Cherokee than you could ever imagine.
Adesiqua Dila.
Well, I'll see you to you too.
What has come over you?
I've forgotten your tea. Will you still take it, or must you be going?
Am I still welcome?
Are you my mother?
Of course, what a question.
Then you're still welcome.
She gets that way.
How is your father?
We don't see each other. When we do, we both head for the ditches. We don't speak.
Well, surely that can be mended. Have you thought of an occupation?
My favorite occupation is drinking and playing poker.
Well, Shepherd, you can't raise a family losing at poker.
I wish you and Daddy had thought about that before y'all hitched me and Alma up. Alma and me, we just don't seem to pull together too good as a team.
Well, you'll learn that over the years. Patience, son. You need patience. Father, come in.
Howdy do.
Hello, Grandpa. Can I get a cup of tea for you? I've made a blackberry cobbler.
Is tea all you have?
What would you like?
Milk with my cobbler, if you've got it.
I do.
What have you been up to?
Nothing that'll impress the ladies, I'm afraid.
Mother says you're building a house for Emma.
Why, yes, you and Em are to be my bookends. When the allotments are awarded, you will be my anchor to the east, and Emma will be my anchor to the west, and you've got all those cousins in between. We'll control all the land north of the railroad for 30 miles.
But you won't be able to own any of it. Ownership is restricted to the tribe.
As long as I can benefit from it, I don't have to own it. I can simply continue to manage it for the two of you.
A strip of prime land running 30 miles alongside the railroad, and you didn't have to lay out a dime.
No, it is prime. I chose it very carefully. What a nice little get-together, Alma. Now, your cobbler is delicious.
Thanks, Grandpa. We've invited Mr. Britton too, but he couldn't make it.
You did? What's the occasion?
We need y'all to help us fix something.
What's that, honey?
I don't want to be married to Shep, and he's not all that thrilled with me. The whole thing was a mistake from the get.
But you stood before God and took vows, Alma.
No, what God has joined together, let no man put asunder.
Well, God didn't put us together. You did. You're not claiming to be the Almighty, are you?
Oh, of all the impertinence.
Do you agree with this, Shep?
We never have got along.
Daddy never would have let y'all do what you did.
Oh, your father wouldn't have lifted a pinky. What did he ever do but cut hair and drink? I raised you girls all by myself, with no thanks to William Lindsay, not one bit.
Did you know he was a drinker when you married him?
Your father didn't drink before we married, so.
If I hadn't been a drinker when we were married, I sure would be by now. Like mother, like daughter.
Fool!
Take heart, daughter. This one will drink himself to death long before his 70.
I'd be surprised if he makes it 10.
I don't have 10 years to waste. Not even a year.
I don't know what you think we can do. Our family doesn't believe in divorce.
But you believe in selling liquor to the Indians.
White men and Indian alike.
You sell liquor to white men and roguts to Indians. You believe in making money off whores. Oh yes, I know about all the orphan girls you rescue and the nieces you shelter under your roof. Money is all that it comes down to. Isn't that right, Grandpa?
That is true, Alma.
That's why you auction me off as breeding stock, isn't it? The more babies I make, the more land you'll control.
Nothing the crowned heads of Europe haven't been doing for centuries. A princess may have her own land, but it remains under the authority of the king.
I am not a princess and you are not a king. I will not be part of your scheme.
I don't know how you'll get around it, my dear. Nature will eventually take its course.
There is nothing natural about this setup.
A wife should cleave unto her husband.
I will cleave him into pieces before I cleave onto him.
Hey!
No, the marriage can't be undone. I can't do a thing about it. Neither can your mother, and neither can you.
I will not spend my life with a man I despise. I want to spend my life with a husband I love and respect, a man who loves and protects me and loves me, not some fool who came tacked onto the back of the end of a shady business deal.
But you will, or else you will lose everything.
I willingly give up everything. I will get on my horse and ride away. I will follow my father's traditions, not yours. I shall live as a Cherokee in the Cherokee Nation. All I have to do is, as a Cherokee woman, is leave his belongings outside the door and we will be divorced. My children will belong to me, and I will choose a land allotment far, far beyond your reach.
You will accept the allotment that has been chosen for you.
I will not.
So be it. I have nothing more to say. Now I'm going to step out on the porch and have a cigar with Shep while you ladies say your goodbyes.
Promise me you won't run away. Please, I will deal with father.
He will eat you alive.
Oh, he always wins, it's true.
Say nothing more to him. When he takes you home, simply pack your bags and come here to stay. I don't want you to do laundry for whores for the rest of your days, Mama. Tomorrow we will go together and pay a visit to Em. If she's as unhappy in her marriage as I have been, then we'll bring her home and she can live with us too.
I'm sorry, sweetheart. You deserve better, you do. I would not have let you live the life I have lived. I was wrong to follow father's wishes when I talked you into this marriage. Please, dear angel, please forgive me. I would not do to you what was done to me, not of my own accord.
I do forgive you, Mama. We will do our best and we'll make it out if we stick together.
Lights up on the porch. Joshua and Shepherd stand on the porch.
What makes you think that you two can't get along?
I guess the main clue is that she sleeps with a knife under her pillow.
Do you beat her?
Alma could take me 3 rounds of 3.
Another man?
Could be. I suspect so.
You understand, of course, that we can't allow her to run out on us. I have had plans for this property since before she was born. She can stamp her pretty little foot and pitch a hissy fit, but I will not be thwarted. Do you know the man?
I believe I do.
Is he Indian?
Yeah.
That's where she's getting all this Cherokee right, isn't it?
She's pretty good at coming up with ideas on her own.
Are you going to fight for her?
She'd spit in my face if I won.
Then here is where I call in my chit. You and your gang find this fellow and get rid of him. We'll forget all about the train incident. I don't care how you do it. I just want it done. That girl will not leave me high and dry.
End of excerpt. Beautiful. Thank you, ensemble. Thank you for that beautiful read. Thank you. Wonderful. So now we are going to transition to our last and Woodbones. So Bill Yellow Robe Jr. Was not physically here with us, but he was definitely spiritually here with us through these excerpt readings. And I just wanted to give it an opportunity if the actors haven't introduced themselves and perhaps the year, if you're a freshman or a senior at Marymount, and what your focus is before we go into taking Q&As on the developments of each of these plays.
I think they did that before we read the first play, or the second play. I think we heard. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. So our actors got to introduce themselves. Okay, beautiful. So I would love to just hand it over to Ryan first to talk a little bit about the development of your piece. This play is Native Made. I know it's had a really rich development history, and that you usually perform the majority of these plays. So I just wanted to open it up, having you speak a little bit about it, and then would love to open it up to everyone else to engage with Ryan and his work.
Sure. Yes. So yeah, this play was Native Made. Was actually it was actually the first play that I had written because I initially was an actor and director and then producer. But I was so moved in terms of and angered by the attempts of the state of New Jersey to try to remove my nation's state recognition that I felt compelled to write something. It was all I could do in terms of dealing with that. In terms of, because when you think about it, for all of your life, I was actually born. At the time, right around the time in the late 70s, early 80s, when then President Jimmy Carter signed the I forget the exact name, but it was like the Indian Religious Freedom Act, which basically allowed natives to do their religion, express their traditional religions freely. And then around the time in the early 80s, when my nation got state recognition, the Nanacoke Lenape in the state of New Jersey. And so I was born around the time. So a lot of my childhood and adulthood, early adulthood, was spent knowing of that victory, in terms of the older generations that have worked for that, achieved that, got that, and then of course our struggle for federal recognition was and still is ongoing. And so then to know that, okay, so now to have this other step in our civil rights ahead of us to try to achieve that, to have one thing that you thought was already achieved taken out from under you. Being a theater artist, the thing I knew what to do the most was write a play about it. And that's essentially what how the beginning of the play begins, in terms of doing the play, and then in real time having someone say, "Wait, stop! You can't do that. You can't call yourself that," because under what happened in the last decade, around the late 2000s and the early part of the last decade, was that if a member of our tribe did, as many of them do, many of them are craftsmen and artisans, if not in theater, they're certainly in music, they're certainly in making of jewelry and other crafts. If they see, and of course they would say it was native made and they would sell it. And if they would sell it and say this is native made and they got caught, they could legally be fined for, under state law at the time, falsely saying that they were native. One of our tribal elders even talked about how a pipe, I think it was a pipe or an artifact that he made, was then a museum in Princeton, New Jersey. And when I first went in there, they say it was Lenape made, it was native made. They, due to the law, the state legislature they had to remove it and say, and I don't know what they said it was, but they had to remove and say that that it was native made. They had to remove that. And then, fortunately, due to the work of our tribe and also new leadership in New Jersey, we got our state recognition reinstated, and they were able to thus reinstate the native made label on the artifact that he made that's in this museum in Princeton. It may sound silly, it may sound tedious, but that did happen, and it is part of our legacy. And even beyond that, it also means the resources, housing, healthcare for elders, education, scholarship. So it has also a lot of other real world consequences for members of our tribe. So that was the impetus that had me start the play. And over the course of the past several years, the play has had different workshops, both excerpt readings, as well as a workshop reading that we had on Governor's Island, Eagle Project with the American Indian Community House, and then also a workshop and a first full production at the Ashtar Theater in Ramallah, Palestine, where we did it in front of a Palestinian audience. Which gave it another whole context and coloring, and so that's the history of it.
Yeah. Having been in that audience and finding the parallels between the solidarity of the Palestinian community.
I'm sorry, what?
I said finding the parallel in the solidarity between the Palestinian community and the Native American community in that audience, that special performance.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, even and even some, obviously, some did speak English, but English was not their first language. So still, a lot of them did get understand what was going on. And they were very vocal, and they would cheer things. They booed the officer when when they came out. So yeah, I mean, a lot of those parallels are very true. I mean, even, right now, I heard today our secretary, or outgoing Secretary of State, was in heading to Palestine this week to Israeli settlements that are on that land. So yeah, so exactly, it's the parallel between things being won, deals or treaties being created, and then being arbitrarily broken when it gets into the aisle of potential profit making. Essentially, one reason why our state recognition was taken was, in fact, the supposed being afraid of us putting casinos there, which we have in our charter that we did not want to build a casino. Our nation is only about an hour from Atlantic City, and so people think us putting a casino there would bring competition to Atlantic City, but of course I mean, it would be, first of all, it'd be a silly business venture for us when we're in this kind of pine woods and marshland. When you have the ocean an hour away, why would we do that? But nonetheless, they didn't care. They didn't want that. And so that's one reason that's kept us from federal recognition as well, as the fact of the real estate of being close to Atlantic City. And back in the 90s, then business fraud. Donald Trump was one of the people who had casinos at the time, who tried to keep us from having our recognition. So yeah.
Thank you, Ryan. I just wanted to open up to anyone. If you could unmute yourselves or write your questions in the chat.
Yes, Magdalena, am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yes, and thank you all for such a wonderful feast. I think I'm the only non-theater interloper here. I'm a professor in the English department. And the thing that really struck me in both your plays was your sly use of humor. It was just so delightful. So I guess I would love to hear some more about, the importance of humor in your own cultural genealogy and for you individually as artists.
No, Vicki, please go first.
Oh, okay. Humor. Yeah, Cherokees are kind of famous for their sense of humor. I've even read in history, but I mean, it's downbeat and it's not obvious. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't know how to explain it, but there's a special thing. You can be sarcastic but funny. You can be you can just be anything as long as you're funny, I guess, and say anything. And it is important. I mean, if you don't use humor, people don't stay engaged. I don't think. I don't. And if there's not a little joke or somebody laughing about something in any story, then, I wonder what the point is. I don't know. And it's just the way I think. That's the way I use humor, is the way my family used humor. They would, belittle you in a funny way. For instance, here's a Cherokee story. This is a Cherokee sense of humor. There were two young men during the Civil War they were twins. They wanted to go to war together, and they stood up in front of the tribe before they left, and they said, "We will defeat them or we will die. We will not come back unless we win. And if we don't come back, then we're dead." So the war went on, and one of the boys was killed and the other one came back. And so they said, oh, we're going to have to change your name. This is what Cherokees do, for instance. They will change your name and everyone will start calling you a name over something stupid you did. So this boy, these brothers, one was then named He Who Went to War and Succeeded. And the brother who came home was He Who Went to the War and Failed. And that was their name. I mean, you can wrap it up like that. My sense of humor, I'm a little strange. For instance, all of my plays have Cherokee titles. They're not, except in the case of Broken Heartland, they are not literal translations, because I began to understand the culture and the language better the more I worked with Cherokees on language and so forth. So the title of Hoop Jumper, which in our culture, that's maybe a guy who will break his back to please his wife, right? He will do anything. He will jump through hoops. He's like a little circus dog, right? Well, hoop jumper in Cherokee means circus dog. So they know what this character is going to be like before we even go in there. I don't know. That's Cherokee humor. But using humor, I don't care what kind of humor it is. I don't care if it's Moldavian or Polish or whatever. Humor helps everything. And a good sense of humor is necessary to be a fully rounded person. My opinion.
Absolutely, and I certainly second Vicki on that. I also say, I mean, I don't know if this is necessarily a part of Lenape humor, but I did have a great uncle. He unfortunately left us when I was fairly young, but his name was Brings His Own Pipe, and that was a name that he was given because, as I'm told, in the ceremonies, I remember at the naming ceremony that I had, there's in the center you have an around, and then there's a ceremonial pipe that's passed around, and then they hold it up, hold down, and he wouldn't, for whatever reason, he didn't want to use the ceremonial pipe that's passed around. He would bring his own, and so that was his, so that was the name that he was given.
He brings his own pipe.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you suppose he feels about doing that now?
No, well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Maybe he was, he was ahead of his time.
I wouldn't want to be called she who tried but failed.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that there's a lot of humor that just comes from the communities, and I think a lot of Native tribal nations are in essence communities, and very, very close knit communities, even if nowadays they may not live together. And yes, I certainly second Vicki that humor is certainly has to be a part of whatever narrative or story that is being told. And plus, I also say a lot of the best humor in general comes from a lot of pain, right? A lot of pain and suffering. It's a way of dealing with it. Sometimes I would say the best humor comes from that. I would say a lot of comedians come from that. I would also say, just from my perspective too, just personally, a lot of my humor, I'm often attracted to satire, and a play on words, I like to play around with just hypocrisy in terms of we're told one thing, but yet we operate a different way, and then the crazy machinations or schizophrenia, as I've heard some people say, are surrounding that. I would say the play I recently wrote called The Rabbit Play, I think expresses even more of that through the role of the trickster characters, and yeah.
Thank you so
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question on humor. Vicki, I did want you to talk a little bit about your trilogy and Broken Heartland's role in the trilogy of plays that you were writing.
Oh, okay. Broken Heartland. What I did was I had researched my Cherokee genealogy for about 10 years. And by that time I was 60, and I wrote a novel before I wrote Broken Heartland about my Cherokee. And I sent it to my agent, and she said, she said, no, this is not going to work. There aren't that many Cherokees in the world, you know. And I said, well, yeah, but mixed bloods like me, you know, I mean, I'm a tribal member, but not every mixed blood is. Because you have to be on a specific roll that was closed in 1907. What did you ask me?
Oh, I just wanted to ask I know Broken Heartland is.
Oh, okay, yes.
The first of your trilogy.
Right, I wrote Broken Heartland first, even though it is the second play in the trilogy. I wrote it first because I'd done all the studying, and there were so many wonderful stories, not from my family, but just really important stories, things that I thought people should know about the Indian removal, about all of this stuff. And I wanted to write, but I didn't know what to write. So I went to sleep one night, and my great grandmother came to me in a dream, and all she said was, tell my story first. So, and I felt comfortable with that because I could remember giggling as a little girl over her stories up in the attic in the feather bed that we would all pile into. So I wrote Broken Heartland first, and then when it was seen for the first time in Oklahoma City at the Native American New Play Festival, people wanted to know. They were like, that's so interesting. I didn't know anything about the Dawes Rolls. I've heard about them my whole life. My mom is on them, but I'm not my mom, but grandparents, because nobody was signed up after 1907. And she said, I've always wanted to know more. So tell me more about that and what happened. You know, what was her parents like? How did she, you know, be manipulated like that? And then that play won in 2015 and was produced by the Oklahoma City Theater Company. In that festival, in the Native American New Play Festival, Hoop Jumper was. And so that introduced a whole new character. It introduced a Black and Cherokee character who was off stage in that, but is prominent. He's one of the main characters in Blood Boundary, which is the last. So what I did there was I explained in Hoop Jumper, the #1 play, I thought I should better tell the story of the Dawes Rolls, because that is what it's about, how people lost 80 million acres of land for nothing, But anyway, I told that story, and then when I got to Blood Boundary, I used Aunt Jane from the first, which is Welly's sister, which you wouldn't know, and from Broken Heartland, I used Florence. I know I used somebody from Broken Heartland. Oh, well, I used James, which is Alma's son in that. And he came from Broken Heartland. And that I wrote that because of the political situation within the tribe. One of our former chiefs had disenrolled without without good cause, all of the Black mixed bloods or just Black members of the tribe. Because if you are a descendant of one of the slaves that accompanied the Cherokees on the Trail of Tears, then you are a tribal member, or you are eligible as a tribal member. And they tried to change that in the 70s, and they did, but there was a movement going to get them back enrolled. So I met the woman who ran that movement is Marilyn Vann. She got the Supreme Court, to agree with her, and the freedmen was what they were called, were readmitted. And I got in touch with Marilyn Vann because I also have Vann in my bloodline, and I thought we might have been related. And well, everyone's related. This is America, and if you're not related to everyone yet, your children or grandchildren will be.
Thank you,
That,
Vicki.
yeah, thanks.
Yeah, that's an incredible.
Plus, also, if I may, Vicki, also with Blood Boundary, doesn't also take place around the time of the of the big event that's now like we're in the centennial of, right?
Yes, it's the Tulsa race riot. We were actually working to put together a whole trilogy production here in Tulsa, because Tulsa is where the race riot, it's now called the Greenwood Massacre, because it wasn't, the race that was rioting were the white people. It was not the natives, not the mixed bloods, and not the Blacks. It was the white people. So Blood Boundary I set in the year before. I set in 1920, and the riot happened on Memorial Day in 1921. And so what I did was I showed how disjointed. Tulsa was the only town in the whole United States that had segregated phone booths. You couldn't use a phone on the wrong side of town. If you lived north of Archer Street, you couldn't call home. You had to go north of Archer Street to get a phone that you could dial. They had money. It was called the Black Wall Street. It was very, very thin. And so I brought up characters and people alive from that time it's for somebody who's really interested in history to find out about them all together. But what they did was they took the most successful people. They took a man who owned 3 theaters. He was the richest man in town because he had all of the talent. And it was on the Black side of town. The Black side of, the main part of Tulsa used to be the part that they destroyed during the riot, but they moved that 10 years prior, a few miles south. And then that was really segregated. And they did not allow them to have water piped in there, and they did not allow gas. I don't know, they didn't have gas, but they could not bring water to them, even though they had the money. So out of all of Tulsa, Greenwood was the only area, and this is 36 square blocks, that had only outhouses. Now, luckily they had crappers, which were the deluxe model, in case you ever didn't know why a crapper was called an outhouse. An outhouse was called a crapper. It was for Mr. John Crapper, who invented them. Anyway, at the beginning of this riot, the white mobs went around, they pulled out Dr. A.C. Jackson, whom the Mayo brothers named the best Negro surgeon in the United States. And they shot him in front of his family. And his wife and his kids hid all together in the outhouse while his house burned down. They killed the man, Mr. Williams, who owned the theaters. They didn't kill him, but Smitherman, the fellow who ran the Tulsa Star, he was the editor of the Tulsa Star and publisher of several newspapers. He was a black man. And after the riot, they charged him for inciting it because he reported on it. And that just made white people mad. Was that the question?
Well, that was certainly the answer. Because Vicki, you really connected that America has so much of its history to confront, and that this history is not our, in the rehearsal, I kept thinking that so much of this history is not our common knowledge.
Right.
Right, that now in 2020 that we're confronting this brutal history, and that it seems that, I don't know, I wanted to open up for everyone else in response, is that, do you feel that in the United States that we are finally going to come to terms with the genocide and the slavery of the United States, and that we will actually start to shift? Not, I mean, I know for us, we are theater makers, and we first look at what is shifting in the theater field, but I think it's just a reflection of the larger politics, right?
It does, but it depends on who wins the culture wars. You know, I wouldn't say that the chances are very good right now on anyone making any progress on anything except getting through the pandemic. No, but of course, you know, you're right.
Yeah, well, so I just wanted to open up for anyone else as well, since we have about 10 minutes left with our guest.
Oh, I have another story about after the riots in Tulsa. My I guess she's my great grandmother. She my grandmother's mother. Grandma was 15. Flora was her name. Flora was 15, and they lived in Collinsville, which is about 20 miles north of Tulsa, and their property backed up to the railroad. And that weekend, they had rafts and rings of people walking by on the railroad tracks, carrying babies, small children. They were running for their lives. And so my great-grandmother and my grandmother set up a feeding station in the backyard, and they would make beef stew and chili or just plain beans, and they had milk for babies. So, and they did that for as long as, for every day, but for as long as the food lasted.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to touch briefly on, I think it was Magdalena raised something about, basically how little Americans know about their history, and, or, you know, especially in this case, I guess, Caucasian or white Americans. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is by design, and I would, and while certainly white Americans, I would say a lot of other, you know, Americans, you know, communities of color, Native, African American, may not know all about it too, because it's not often taught that way. You know, like, for example, I mean, you know, a lot of things I know about, you know, my tribal nations history is right through elders. I mean, like being one of the nations of first contact, I didn't know that basically the 14th state was supposed to be a Lenape state, and I cover this in my play, for Washington and the United States. Basically the Lenapes allowing the soldiers to use their lands during the Revolutionary War. And also for Lenape's help and bravery, and also helping to fight in it. Of course, the 14th state never happened, right? A lot of people don't know that the 14th state never happened for Lenape. A lot of people don't know that various documents like the Constitution or Bill of Rights, but a lot of these documents that we associate with being the kind of the bedrock of American values, a lot of them come from native tribes. Both here on the East Coast or also the Iroquois Confederacy, which is in what is now upstate New York. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that. So a lot by that is design. I think a part of that is also an element of white supremacy to know that the history of the United States was created and built by a multitude of people of various ethnicities. Not one ethnicity did it all, of course, by no means. So I think you're seeing that a lot now, right? In terms of like with the statues and with it, all these things to Columbus, who never stepped foot on Turtle Island, right? He was, it was to the south of Turtle Island. So I think it's something that we are starting to come to grips with little by little, but it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be quick, and at times the pushback on that is it's going to be ugly at times. I wish that weren't the case, but unfortunately, I think some of it will be, and we will use humor in some ways to get through it.
Well, and the fight is worth it. It's not like you can just give up. You have to keep after it.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
thinking now about the centering of marginalized voices for us as theater makers. We, the last year or since the murder of George Floyd, that many institutions have said that they are, when they say Black Lives Matter or the lives of people of color matter, that we are shifting, right? So a lot of institutions have made commitments or to not only acknowledge, but to move past acknowledgement by actually changing institutions are functioning. So I'm thinking about as theater artists, what role is narrative to play in that?
I'm sorry, Raquel, it's a little hard to hear you. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm just
cutting out again, huh?
Sorry, I'm trying to get very close to my speakers. That the fields, a lot of institutional theaters have said that they are going to play a part in the civil rights movement by centering the voices of people of color. And I'm just thinking about in our final moments of what role is narrative going to play in that, and how can we all continue to center and raise the visibility of Native American writers, because there's not a lot of representation of Native voices in the American theater, and that narratives are the way forward. It's the way we begin.
Right, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I would just quickly say that I mean that's definitely true, and of course there are a lot of reasons for that, right? In terms of in terms of what it costs to do theater in many cases, in many ways it's almost it shouldn't be this way, but in a way it becomes almost like a playground for wealthy people or rich people. And then also in terms of what institutions and theaters choose to do, and I think it's certainly a start to say, hey, we're going to use communities of color and marginalized voices and put more of them in our programming. But then I think the next step is to then say, well, we shouldn't be thought of as just communities of color, but we're fellow Americans and citizens, just like anybody else. And so it should be automatically incorporated, not a separate program ultimately that's set apart, but one that's integrated. as a critical part of the fabric. Oh, I'll go to Vicky's.
Oh, no. That's good. That's good. Now, I don't know. I just want us all to be together. I want us all to be together and to be healthy and well. And it is very, very uplifting that everyone became, I mean, yeah, I think everyone in America became engaged with George Floyd's death. And that seemed to me like a place where lines were drawn, and even white people were willing to say, this is absurd, this is criminal. And that's what they're saying. And that's, I don't know. I just don't care for the way it was handled. I mean, I love Black Lives Matter. That's not the handling I'm talking about.
Nice. Thank you, Vicki.
Yeah.
Well, you know who I'm talking about.
Talking about, and but thank you for this no Vicki community and coming together. Said I thank you for the note of unity and coming together.
Sure. Oh,
Place to end our conversation today. I'm sorry that I'm having so many audio issues.
okay. If I may, I mean, with people's permission, I would love to add the Eagle Project's email list, or if you'd like to do it yourself, you can go to our website, which is eagleprojectarts.org.
Beautiful. I'm going to put it into the chat for everyone. This is the
Right, thank you.
So you can get to know more about the projects. And there is more information about Vicki's play, about Broken Heartland. This play is native made and wood bones. And that this is not just the, again, ISO or a one-off, that I hope this is the beginning of a collaboration.
Absolutely.
We can continue to grow this relationship with Marymount and Eagle Project and Native Voices.
Oh, it's been such a pleasure to work with you and to meet your students, all very talented. Everyone has just been more than gracious. I'm so glad to meet you and to get to know you, and I hope to work with you again.
Absolutely. No, thank you. Thank you, Raquel, and thank you, Kenny, and to all the actors and actresses that participated with us, and for those that are coming to watch. I mean, that's the first step is to participate, get involved, and as I say, yeah, we'll create that better and more inclusive vision for tomorrow, because obviously you may be paraphrasing, but we're if one of us is not free, then none of us are free, right?
Right.
Yes, and thank you to the Theater Arts Department for support in this project, and thank you for our Marymount performers. This is really wonderful collaboration, and to our guests, Gabrielle, Magdalene, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, that was great.
So thank you. Oh, yeah, I'll take off. Okay. Thank you.
No,
Bye-bye.
Ryan, thank you. That was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Oh, thank you, Kenny. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. It was, and then it was great. Because we produced Woodbones. We first did a workshop in 2012, then we produced in 2013. So it was nice, kind of going back and hearing those plays again, and hearing how time has brought, I think, more meaning into those plays in many ways. And so yeah, so it was a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Awesome. Jill Stevenson, who's the chair of the program, was here. She had to leave, but she wanted to just pass on. I know she passed on to Raquel how meaningful this was to her, and thanking you for your time. So I'm just passing that on to you.
Oh, no, I appreciate that. Absolutely. Well, I hope we'll stay in touch.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
In contact, Ryan, and I look forward to collaborating again. And hopefully actually being in a space together.
Yeah,
Great.
absolutely. Yeah, that's the next step. Okay, have a good night.
Thank you, too, Ryan.
Bye.
All right. Oh, I'm going to stop recording.